Before we get started today, I just want to recognize our sponsors who help make today possible. Lois Mans with Farmers Insurance, Greg Mans with Upright Construction, Adam Dregge with Complete Realty Solutions, Jason Hudson, Red Maples Construction, and our newest vendor, Nate Tomlin with the Tomlin Heating and Air. If you guys know anybody who has a question about real estate that we could solve, please contact us here at Restore STL so we could talk. If you want to wake up, take control of your life, and use real estate effectively to build a purposeful future, please check out our upcoming arena programs. And now, today's episode of The Kevin Duragi Show. Hey friends, Kevin Duragi. Welcome to The Kevin Duragi Show. Today we have a special guest, Dan White. Dan is a great guy. I love when we get into talking with Dan. So he spent some time, well, he's from St. Louis, went out, lived right underneath the Hollywood sign, Hollywood Hills. And then he comes back and starts living in Holly Hills and all this other stuff here. Did not know a lot of that was named after Hollywood. But it's it's fun. So let's check out Dan and his fun journey from Hollywood Hills to Holly Hills. All right, here we go. Hello, friends. Today we have our guest, Dan White. Dan, how you doing?
Doing good, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
So, Dan, it is great to have you on the show. A longtime friend of our producer here, Jake. So Jake introduced us, and here we are. It's fantastic. So, hey, so you're a St. Louis guy. Well, good job. How long have you been in real estate, and why did you get into it?
Well, I am a St. Louis guy, originally from Maryland Heights, North County, and then down to South County, and then kind of traveled around a little bit. But always knew I was going to get into real estate and had been in real estate at a very young age, kind of working alongside my dad or working for my dad, at like the age of 5, 6, just picking up nails and stuff for $2 an hour on the jobs. And he was doing that stuff on the side. So I always kind of had interest in it and always kind of knew I was going to get into it at some point, I think, on a deep level. But I just didn't come around to it until I was like 27.
So, what did actually, that's even before I did. But what was your dad doing? That was he in construction or was he slinging houses?
Dad was, or by trade, he was an electrical engineer, and he had like, I don't know, him and my uncle were partners. They probably had 15 or 20 doors kind of on the side, so it was like nights and weekend stuff.
That's fantastic.
A lot of fun.
Where did he go to school?
He went to Rolla
Hey!
College. You too?
That's where I would. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
you're an
wasn't
engineer?
a double E though, but what's that?
You're an engineer?
Yeah. I didn't do anything with it. So it was in industrial engineering, but I spent more of my time playing with dirt and soils and concrete. So it's funny how it all lays out there.
Yeah, it is.
So what'd you do? Did you go to college or did you go straight into business?
So I went to Mizzou, and then I went out to LA actually kind of on a whim with friends who were in production, music and film. And I was going to go out there for 1 year just to kind of have fun, something different. And I stayed for 6. So I came back in 2012, 13. And I actually kind of had a real estate experience on my way back. So for a year after having moved back, I sublet my apartment in the Hollywood Hills. And that's a whole like story there in and of itself. But I guess you could say that was kind of my intro into real estate, was subletting my apartment from 2,000 miles away.
Was it successful or was there issues?
It was successful in that I covered my rent. So I had like a master plan. I was going to move back out there. And it was unsuccessful in that there was nobody there to clean it. So I was getting complaints from these people, progressively getting worse and worse to the point where one girl like broke out in rashes and was complaining about bugs and stuff. And this is just a studio apartment. It's up in it's like right under the Hollywood sign. So I actually kind of crazy because I had a friend that was working for Mark Burnett, the producer at the time. I don't know how much of this I can actually say. But yeah, uh, brakes are off.
Yeah.
So he was working for Mark Burnett and Jose Canseco, power hitter,
Yeah. Yeah.
MLB power hitter. He's the guy that kind of like threw everybody under the bus with the Mitchell report with the steroids and stuff years
Yeah.
prior to that. He was working on a house. He was playing for some minor league team, and he was living in L.A. and he had this attorney living with him. So I think him and his wife had split, and he had like a divorce attorney, and she was living with him. So she got booted out of the house and was one of my subletters, and she was renting my place out. Like she knew exactly what she was getting into. It had been cleaned before that, we'll say.
Air quotes
So
cleaned. Yeah.
after some time, she didn't put in the security deposit. So I was like, you got to put in a security deposit here. It's just a studio apartment. So it was like probably $350 or something. But I didn't get my security deposit, and then I didn't get like a first month's rent. And she was leveraging the fact that it was uncleanly or whatever, and against me, and not paying that money. So I was like, look, you want it or not? Like you're living there at this point. Well, it turns out she was broke and she just didn't have the money. So what's funny is I had a friend that still lived out there. Like I said, he was working for Mark Burnett at the time. And little did I know, Jose Canseco was actually talking with Mark Burnett at the time about doing a reality show. So, people are probably always pitching stuff to him, but he was actually talking to Jose Canseco. So I said, Dan, do you mind going by and just like maybe knocking on the door and just like showing up? Because I'm 2,000 miles away. I can't do that. This girl's got my money. She hasn't turned in her security deposit and rent, and she's living in my place. So Dan goes, yeah, yeah. And so I explained the situation to him. Dan's not a sports guy. But when I said Jose Canseco, he's like, who? And I'm like, Jose Canseco. And he goes, hold on a second. He goes, that guy's been talking to Mark Burnett, his boss. So he's like, okay, I got an idea. So he writes a letter, puts it on her door, and it was just like a really well written letter. And if you know Dan, he's got a zany sense of humor. He's like, hey, my buddy Dan, he's in St. Louis, and he's just waiting for the money that you owe him and stuff. And oh, by the way, my boss is Mark Burnett. He's talking with Jose Canseco. I mean, it was like the phone rang as soon as she read that letter, and I got my money.
Just gotta.
but but that was the last straw, and I was like, I can't do this. This subletting thing is a nightmare.
So did you just let your lease run out, or
I think it was month to month at the time. Yeah.
with your? Huh.
I had a sweet deal. I was up in the hill and I could see all 7 layers of smog, I like to say. It was like a bean dip.
Oh my
But
God.
I could see Dodger Stadium lit up to the west or to the east, and I could actually see the waves rolling in 13 miles out to the west with a high zoom camera. And then I could see like Compton straight ahead, so I could see all of that. And the smog would the soot would settle on my door, and you could like sign your name on it,
Oh my
like a car,
gosh.
like a dirty car.
What time period was this?
This is 2012. Is when I really started making my way back here.
Because I
2012.
thought, man, I thought they cleaned up all that smog, and because what was it? We were
Only when it rains, Kevin. It's for a couple days.
I mean,
It's
we grew up in
beautiful.
the '80s and we learned about all this stuff, and I thought acid rain and all this other stuff was a bigger deal.
It kind of
Uh,
sits in there. It's like a bowl. It just hovers.
I've never been out to LA, haven't been to San Diego. I've been everywhere else, but it never made it there. Is it worth
Sa-
visiting?
San Diego, yes. San Diego's the best. I
I've heard
highly
that a
recommend you
lot.
go
A
there.
lot of people
Yeah.
don't really leave San Diego because it's
Yeah.
perfect almost every day.
Yeah. People are friendly and relaxed. There's not as much traffic, or at least there wasn't when I was there. But yeah, take a train down from LA along the coast, along the PCH down to San Diego. That's the best ever.
Hmm. All right, Midwest talk here. So you're back in St. Louis. You had this subletting experience out in Hollywood Hills. How do you start real estate here in St. Louis? What was your how'd you do it? What was your angle?
Yeah, so I didn't have an angle. My folks helped me acquire a place. Excuse me. They were looking for it while I was there. So I was working as a drug dealer at a hospital at Cedar Sinai Hospital, big hospital. I was a farm tech, and I was mixing meds in the basement in the graveyard shift, and I'd come home, start drinking coffee, and look for real estate deals. And so I was learning to underwrite deals, sort of on my own, intuitively. And they had looked at how did that work? They had looked at a place that was for sale, and then you know how the agent oftentimes will like try to like find a buyer while they're doing a listing. I think that's what happened. So Mark Evans was my first agent, and he represented me as a buyer pretty quickly. And man, I owe that guy a lot of credit because he really probably didn't make a lot of money on that deal when it finally happened, but we had to look at 3 or 4 or 5 deals to get it. And I think I might have contracted a deal before having gotten back to St. Louis actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was. I think that's how that worked out. So I had just enough cash to get a deal, and I bought a duplex in Holly Hills, which is named after the Hollywood Hills. So I moved from Hollywood Hills to Holly Hills, and then later moved to Princeton Heights on Holly Hills. So there's
Ha!
like this weird progression of Hollywood Hills esque areas or
From
whatever.
Hollywood to Holly Hills. Oh, that's
Which
fun.
yeah, was weird because it is named after Hollywood, Holly Hills.
I did not know that. Fun
Um,
fact. Good job, Dan.
Yeah, yeah. So that was like 15 years of that. But I bought this place and I didn't have a whole lot of experience. Like I really didn't. I mean, I remember doing stuff with my dad, but I just kind of jumped in the cold water. So I renovated it was a duplex, beautiful building. It was a gorgeous building. Um, I renovated the first floor, got a tenant in there, renovated the second floor, and I was kind of living on each floor. So then I'm like, okay, now I got these units. Where am I going to live? I got them rented out. So I actually built out the basement and I framed it out. And I had, I won't mention any names, but somebody came down there and got some plumbing done for me. And I literally put in a bathroom in down there and like a closet. It was pretty cool. So I was down there living in the basement. And I joked because I had a public lighting utility service put in, and until then, I was actually paying my tenant rent. So I was like paying her for utility bills. And I had like a walkout basement. So it wasn't like dungeony down there, but I did that for a little bit. And then, the rest is history. You just kind of moved on from there.
Good. So you're more of a buy and hold guy. Is that what it is? Or do you do flips or wholesales
No,
or
I really don't buy and hold. I'd like to get back into that, but I've sold everything pretty much. I just have a couple buildings right now. My main play right now is to buy and sell. Whatever that be, wholesale, wholesale, novation deal, flips. Doing more and more flips these days.
so all those terms obviously we talk about a lot. Talk about innovation.
Talk about novation.
Novation, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've done a couple of those. Actually, and then there was another one that would have worked out, but the seller's agent and the seller, or excuse me, the buyer's agent and the buyer tried to go behind me on that, so I kind of backed off of it. But I don't know if you're definitely familiar with novations. I mean, for the folks at home, a novation deal is basically you're working on a property that you don't own, and they're leveraging their position with the bank, and their interest rate could be low. They're going to continue paying the bank. They're going to continue paying interest, or excuse me, taxes and insurance and utilities. And we're actually making an investment in that property with a, we'll say, white glove experience, where basically, and it is a complicated process. Excuse me. Uh, there is an inspection period, kind of as a safety net. However, at the end of the day, we're putting money into a property that we don't own, essentially, and with the hopes that it's going to sell. And then you want to make sure it sells, because if not, there's going to be a lot of upset people. And so thankfully it really worked out well. We did a novation deal in Baden, North City, and it actually worked out really well. This was a big old house that had a lot of work done to it previously, and it was sitting vacant. The buyer, or the listing agent that had listed it, it had been listed fairly recently, like within a year, left the lockbox on the property, and I know they like had it cleaned out really good, got all the junk out of it. But this is a massive house. I mean, it's probably 2,400 square foot. It's like 5 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, that type of thing. Just a Goliath, and it had everything had been done to it. So we just kind of came in, we put like 30 grand into it, cleaned it up. And the buyer or the seller was in Cali. So he was super thankful about that because he'd just been left high and dry by a listing agent that didn't want to go there and mess with it. So we came in
Which you
and it
can't
was
blame them.
perfect. Yeah, it worked out really well.
But so people who aren't familiar, Baden isn't necessarily high on the chopping block. It's usually an area that you don't dump 30 more grand into. So why did you feel like this particular property was something you could do that with?
We just knew it. We underwrote the deal and we looked at comps and just we went, I think we sold it, we listed it for 170. You know,
Is
I
this
think it was
recently?
no, this was maybe 3 years ago. Alicia Sierra, I
Yeah.
don't know if you know her. She was a listing agent, and I remember her being confident about that 170, and it sold. It got under contract pretty quickly, so it really
Oh,
worked out. Yeah,
I'm a little surprised.
yeah. I knew it was going to make money. I think I was probably estimating it would sell for like 150, 160, something like that.
Hmm.
I think we made like 38 grand on it. That
That's
one,
usually one of our areas of,
right? For sure, it's hit or miss, definitely.
yeah. Well, just
Yeah.
like in any, because I mean, in St. Louis, Ferguson used to be one of the prized jewels of North County, right? We look
Hmm.
at North County because they cared about your grass, they cared about the properties you were flipping, and then the whole situation where Ferguson became, hashtag Ferguson, became its whole like kind of like Waco, Texas. Like it just has a different connotation after traumatic events. And I mean, I think it's recovered, but it's not back to where I think it was. Retail is still adjusting unless you know otherwise.
Ferguson, we have, I think we've done like wholesale deals in Ferguson. Um, I would renovate a house in Ferguson. You know those big old houses that have big lots, and
Oh,
they're
yeah.
they're
Ferguson's a
built 100
beautiful
years
area.
old. Beautiful, yeah. Actually, we did a rehab in Ferguson. Actually, we did a rehab on um, South Harvey, if you know where that is,
Mm-mm.
off of Suburban, behind the
Okay.
brewery, across the street from the Ferguson Brew, which
That's a
I
neat
heard
area.
closed, by the way.
I had, when the whole Michael Brown thing happened, I had a house under contract, close on Thatcher near where the Quick Trip was burned down.
Oh
And
yeah,
I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm out." They're like, "Oh, what about the comps? What about" I'm like, "Comps are all different. This is
yeah,
this is totally different. Like, if you let everything settle, we'll revisit it, but I'm not gonna buy this house right now."
yeah.
Like, there's a lot of uncertainty.
Really
So,
unfortunate turn of events there. Yeah.
hey,
Um,
moving on. Let's just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
Let's
event kinda
rebuild.
was
Let's rebuild. Like, let's by doing these renovations. That's the great thing. Is like doing these renovations is really fulfilling because you can like see the neighborhood turn. And you can push prices up too. It's good for everybody. Neighbors love that.
Hey friends, it's Kevin. I want to talk about one of my friends. We go way back, all the way back to episode 17, Adam Draghi, CRS Realty, or Complete Realty Services. So I am so proud of Adam and his team. Like they've created this wonderful world of agents and property managers. They handled a bunch of my rentals. They do a great job. They communicate. They're honest. They can just take care of things. So if you're looking at building your portfolio, whether it's as an agent, whether it's managing your portfolio, I cannot tell you that they are fantastic anymore. Like they do a great job. And I'm so proud of Adam and what he's done with his team. So guys, give him a holler at 314-325-8328. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. Uh,
Yeah.
I remember, well, okay. So when I was working in volume, right, I had my three crews, I had office managers, project manager, all this different stuff going on. And I burned out. And I think it was because I wasn't able to see the projects anymore. I wasn't able to see the transformation. Like I love cleaning out the houses. I like coming in. And then there's usually this low point where you're like, oh, is this ever gonna get done? And then there's
For
one day
sure.
you're like, I'm just gonna sweep the floor. You take out the trash, you're like, oh man, we could do this. Like,
Yeah.
everything's it isn't so bad anymore. It's like, oh, all we have to do is blank, blank, blank. but it's almost like on every project, there's that moment of, oh, and then you sweep the floors, take out the trash, or move some stuff around. You're like, okay, we're almost there. And then it's just really encouraging to go in and knock it out. But what I love is when the neighbors come out and you get to know the neighborhood, people
Yeah.
are excited. Oh, I hated that bush, like, oh, so thank you for taking it down because it hides the actual house. Or, like once you start doing this stuff, it's like, all right, I like being here and seeing the transformation. Like to me, it
Hell
makes you
yeah.
feel lighter
Oh yeah.
when the neighbors are like, "Yes," "Hey, do you mind if I use your dumpster?" Do you become part of the network there, and it sounds like you have that same feeling.
Absolutely. I don't let people use my dumpster. That could go sideways real quick. But
Uh, well, they
um
ask, and we're
I'm with you,
usually like,
brother.
"I'll tell you
Yeah.
before we empty it if you wanna,"
Yeah.
um, but yeah, we have plenty to put in there, so, I don't like to keep them there for a long period of time.
I'm with
Um
you though. Like being on the job is really fulfilling. I mean, it is really cool to see something transition and to be there physically. I guess the bittersweet part of it is the catch 22, I should say, is that like I'm getting to a point where I'm trying not to be on the job site just because it pulls me from I'm still wearing a few different hats and
Mhm.
it pulls me from sales and like sales management really. And so because it's like an hour it's a 2 hour thing every time you go to a property basically. So like draw inspections and even walkthroughs now. A buddy of mine's doing the is like project manager assistant with that stuff. So I am happy about that. Um, I guess my real passion is just being on the other side of a camera and like, producing video content. I really love doing that. So I'd like to get to that point where I am, like you said, going back to the projects again because that's pretty fulfilling. Just right now, it's weird because I actually have to step away from that to kind of grow things.
It's one of the conversations we're having now is we're scaling again ourselves here, but it's like, all right, how can I need to work in the business, but I also need to make sure I'm spending time working on the business.
Oh yeah,
Like, and it's like, okay, do I hire a salesperson or do I do that and just do this as a plus one? How does this look? And then you come up with, okay, last time this happened, how do I not have a burnout?
yeah,
It's curious because we have 3 main tenants here, Dan. The most important real estate is between your ears. Your personal drives your professional, and it's all about relationships. And each of those comes from a certain reason. Like, I when so my dad got pancreatic cancer, and I was a solopreneur, and I finally just things were starting to work. You know what I mean? Like it was working. I had the website, I had the business card, I had marketing. It just was going. And I was like, yes, I was swinging a hammer. I had some private lenders. I had some, it was starting to
yeah,
work. He get a diagnosis and it was just like everything started falling. I didn't have anybody. I didn't have a partner or I didn't have a support group, a mastermind, anybody to say, hey, man, why don't you stop spending so much money on marketing? I couldn't answer the phone anymore, because emotionally, I broke down, because I was dealing so much with personal stuff, personal drives
mhm,
professional, that I couldn't
yeah,
be a leader anymore. I couldn't go to my wife or my family because we were dealing with enough, so it's just
mhm,
like, and now, and then you had to rebuild it. So it's like, okay, cool. I know because of those things, hey, watch out for XYZ. Um,
yeah.
we did an episode about Eads Bridge last year. It's actually what
Nice.
our book is coming out about, but it breaks into 3 components: dream, forge, finish, right? The dream was connect East and West, manifest destiny, something that's been around for a long time, right? This vision, or we're using the term dream. At the time of building this bridge across the Mississippi, there's 3 main building components. There was wood, there was iron, and there was stone.
Steel.
Hold up.
Carnegie.
At
Enter
that
Carnegie.
time,
Love this.
those 3 things were not strong enough to build that bridge, right? Because of the sandy loam soil, because of the high current, it needed to be so tall, it was over a
Yeah.
mile long.
Had to
What
carry a
needed
train.
what needed to happen? Turning iron to steel, right?
Yeah.
That forging moment. And then finish, right? A half finished bridge doesn't get you across the river. But forging means there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of heat You got to take out impurities. You got to put in additives, right? Using entrepreneur terms, it's that crucible, right? Where humans, right? Entrepreneurs, leaders go, hey, okay, what do I need to do to become successful, right? What healthy habits do I need to add? What do I need to cut out to be able to become this person that needs to do this thing? So, in Dan White's life, what was a forging moment for you where you were like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to be this guy. I'm going to grow my business like this. I'm going to buy that house instead. What would you say a forging moment for you is?
Forging moment. Um, Man, I really want to come back to the story of that bridge though. That's awesome. Um, I guess where I really kind of like narrowed in on what I was doing and instead had that aha moment where I'm like, am I going to be a one man operation or am I going to build a team? That was probably the forging moment. I don't know, it was a moment. It's still happening, That's how it
Mhm.
goes. I got with the results driven crew. I don't know if you know those guys. Josh and Tiffany High. Um, and so they're a husband and wife couple. They're a couple, and they got into real estate and just took off. Working together, and they started to build out systems and processes and knew how to manage teams, hiring, onboarding, and all that. And now they've built a coaching program naturally because it just parallels that. I did not run things like a business. I was like a fly by night wholesaler type of thing, doing
Yeah.
a flip here and there. And when I got under their wing, 4 years ago, I've ended up getting coaching as well, one-on-one coaching. I'd say that was a real forging moment for me, and still is.
Good. What so I know you used to hang around your dad and stuff like that and kind of get exposed to stuff. Was there any key books or podcasts or shows or was anything there
Oh,
that kind of helped you bridge the gap before you found these guys? Because
yeah, it's
having a
funny.
coach is huge.
Huge, huge deal. Um, Books is funny because I could see it on my shelf. It's called Nothing Down, and it was probably written in the '80s, back when interest rates were sky high, and these people were taking advantage of like wraparound mortgages and stuff like get creative financing. I found that was my first book, so it was really intriguing to me, and it gave me sort of it was like some of the more challenging stuff to learn. A lot like the 70% rule that these kids are learning these days. It's like I
Oh,
was
these
learning like
kids
these
and their
complex.
Play-Dohs. Yeah.
It's like I learned to drive a stick shift in the Hollywood Hills, and then everything else is a breeze. So that was like really cool for me to learn that. I just picked it up off my dad's shelf. And then another book by one of my heroes, Conrad Hilton, who started the Hilton Empire, was born in I think 1879. He has a phenomenal story, and he reiterated that like prayer and hard work and dreaming are all three like components to being successful. But he also sort of I started to realize I had an intuition. I was never any good at sales. I was terrible at sales. And I would like try different things like waiting tables and I would forget to ring people's orders in. So I just sucked at everything. But when I found real estate, something clicked and I had some blessings and people along the way and stuff and training and coaching later on coaching. Um, but the Conrad Hilton book, Be My Guest, was really, really hit hard for me. And that was before I got into real estate. I just always had a business mind. So I've always loved reading biographies of people in business.
Oh,
So
amen
Conrad
to
Hilton.
that.
Conrad Hilton talks about intuition, and one of his deals was a blind auction on a hotel. And he talks about how if you pray and you work hard, you'll build this intuition. And so he was doing this auction, and he just skimmed right over top of the lesser bid and just barely got it by like $1 or something crazy like that. And when you're talking millions of dollars, to be able to hit that mark to where you just top the next person and get the deal, that was pretty cool. There's something like magical that happens there. I did a deal. It was a condo in Creve Coeur, and it was like $17,000 we bought this thing for. It was a great area too. And I remember it was a bidding war, and the seller's husband the seller's father had passed, and her husband was sort of handling everything from Florida. So the guy naturally is just getting bids in from everybody. And I remember like I wrote this long email using all the sales stuff that I learned, and I ended up getting the deal. And it was one of those deals where now it's not millions of dollars, but I just skimmed right over top. And I was like, I'm just curious, who'd I beat out? And he said Jan Duke. So I was like, whoa, all right. That's pretty
which is
cool.
a huge name. Yeah.
I love Jen. She's great. Yeah. But I was like, wow, sweet, got it. And then we wholesaled it to Jim Willen had a condo buyer, which is like a needle in a haystack, right? Like a unicorn. But yeah, had an investor condo buyer and sold it, I think, for 35 or something like that.
So
Squeezed money
I'll
out.
be honest. You say that, man, I flipped a bunch of condos. Because everybody's looking for 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage, just
Hmm.
the ideal. And then you find your little niche. Like, I'll take down 2 1s. I'll take that, like condos. Uh, like some people are looking for them. You know, if
For
you have a
sure.
good unit,
Yeah.
people buy them. So
Have you had any like experience? So you've done condos quite a bit. I mean, it
Mhm.
seems like HOAs are anymore these days. They're more and more of a problem where like these insurance rates are high, and people aren't paying their HOA fees and stuff. That's what we've kind of been running into the last few years, more so.
So as long as you pay them, like, so as a new person, you come in, you have to pay them money, and then you have to pay the monthly. Don't ruffle feathers. Be nice to the management companies. After a while, you get to know them, and then when you leave, the new person typically, or based on the market you're in, they might say, "Hey, can you pay my new condo fees?" So just when you're bidding it out, just know you're going to have a condo
Yeah,
check to write just to kind
yeah,
of make sure everything goes well. But they also need you to push everything up because a lot of the homeowners aren't coming back reinvesting their own units. They need people like us to come in and kick them up to the next level.
right
Uh,
on. Yeah.
so just like anything, it's relationships, right? Once you get in with a management company, all the management companies kind of know each other,
Hmm.
especially because running up condos or apartments, and like, okay, they're usually larger groups. They usually have other places they manage. Just don't be a jerk. Like
Right.
St.
Absolutely.
Louis as a whole, it's a
Small town.
large neighborhood. It's just a series of
Absolutely.
neighborhoods, and it's like, man, if you get a bad rap in one area, people know people, and it goes pretty fast.
Goes real fast.
So
Yeah. Hmm.
all that said, Dan, it is the more like we start talking with other investors, like there's a whole bunch of us here in St. Louis. Like they're just, and we don't always bump into each other out there. Like there is still plenty more out there. We have all
Hmm.
these outside investors that come in, and there's homegrown people that are developing up, and yet there's still a lot of vacant houses and a lot of opportunities. Uh, do you look at it as competition or cooperation out there?
Cooperation, to a certain extent, right? I mean, of course, it is competitive. I'm not gonna lie. It's but you can drill deep in St. Louis. Let's say there's plenty to be had. So always trying to think how can we work with other people. Absolutely, build relationships is extremely important. I mean, that is number one, really. I mean, profits, people is right there. You have to have a profit. You also have to have relationships. So it's just those are just two verticals that are eh, you have to have. They're essential.
I
And it's
remember
just
one of my early coaches told me you can't go broke making a profit. And I was like, okay, I like that. But it also reminds me, are you a history guy?
a little bit.
So there's a famous battle. I think it was the Greeks versus Romans. Um, and during that battle, I think the Romans won, but he said, more victories like that and we'll be ruined. Like it was to that effect because it was
Uh,
just so costly. Yes, you won, but you knocked out most of your troops. You knocked out a lot of
yeah.
that.
Pyrrhic
So
we call it Pyrrhic, right? Pyrrhic victory.
yeah,
Is that right?
yeah,
Would that be a Pyrrhic victory?
yeah.
That's
Um,
crazy. I only
it
know
was
400 words, and I'm doing pretty good right
I
now.
was trying to whitewash the story there, but okay, cool.
Right on, man. Yeah, thank you.
Uh, so I did, every once in a while I do monologues, right? So if you listen, most of what I do is interviews just like this, Dan. But I'll do monologues, and I like Eats Bridge, right? Pulling out
Yeah,
here's a little history thing. I like to tell it in entrepreneur terms, and then I like little like, hey, dream forge finish, right? You pull out what you learned from the
yeah.
history, right? it's just a way that I understand history. I did one about Julius Caesar in the Gallic Wars, taking over the city where he made the double walls. If you're familiar, uh,
No.
oh, Alesia is what it is.
Uh,
So he found the leader that he needed to beat, right? The king of the Gauls, and he surrounded him with this wood wall, right? So he was besieging them, and then he called in their reinforcements, so they started being sieged as they're sieging. So Caesar built a double wall, like just, and there were times like there's battles on both sides coming in, and like the soldiers, one is attacking one way, one is defending the other way. Like, eh, long story short, they win. Julius Caesar's this freaking hero, but he was in the heat of the fight. He was in there showing up with his purple cloak and stuff like that. Like he was in the
wow.
mix, and just that could have easily gone the other way, right? But sometimes fortune favors the bold, and if you're going to inspire people, you got to show up. So leaders
I,
need to lead.
where do you feel like we are right now in the United States? I mean, if when you compare it to history, I mean, everything's kind of cyclical, maybe. Where are we right now?
Are you a fan of do you know who William Durant is?
I know that name.
So he and his wife Ariel did Will and Arrow Durant did lessons of history. So I like reading stuff outside real estate to help me look at real estate, right? To help
Absolutely.
see the patterns, etc.
Yeah.
Some people follow politics, some people follow the stock market. Sure, whatever. Follow what you want. I'm a big fan of seeing what's been done before and then laying it over.
Yeah.
Um, so if you follow some of what he's talking about, because it really is fascinating. So the Middle East was kind of the epicenter, and Greece at that time, while this was really rolling, was kind of like, I use the term Jeffco, right? They were kind of the Hoosiers on the sticks there, while they had palaces, these guys are living in, kind of rudimentary areas. And then sure enough, you have Battle of Marathon, you have Thermopylae and Salamis and things like that. And then Alexander the Great comes in, takes that over, and now they're the high point. And then Rome at that time was the underdog, and then that one comes up and takes it, and then France comes over, and Germany comes over, and then England. Like there's always the next big dog
Right.
until America, and so far the balance of power really has not left us on the world stage. Um, so here we are, and we kind of became the benevolent ruler in a sense.
Uh,
I'm saying some of that tongue in cheek, but also in reality, like we are the police force, etc. Um, but it's not an outside force that took us down, like in Rome or in some of these other areas. It wasn't necessarily invasion; it was ourselves kind of.
yeah.
If you look at how France did it, the Jacobean Revolution came in and kind of took out all this stuff, and
Yeah.
then it let a Napoleon come in, and Napoleon said, "Hey." He cleaned up shop here, but then he also pointed outside, "Hey, let's go fight these guys. These are the bad guys." And that started the whole Napoleonic Wars, where France is great, but you were able to bring everybody together by picking an outside fight.
Mm,
It kind of, so where
yeah.
are we in the cycle?
We
Well,
picked an outside fight.
you can create a storyline by seeing I can make a
Yeah.
lot of comparisons. Um, But there was also a recent it was talking about how nations fall and rise again, right? Because there's Gibbons wrote this whole fall of the Roman Empire, and it took forever, for them to legitimately fall and split and break. And then we had the Ottoman Empire, which was the old man of Europe, right? During World War One, like they were just um, so we're talking about how long some of these fall. But then if you look, East and West Germany, like Germany as a whole, fell, came back. Japan fell, came back. USSR fell, came back. Like it's a much faster turnaround. It's not taking hundreds of years, it's taking 10 years, 5 years, and just the whole it's amazing what a dream and a vision can do. Um, Especially if you have a spirited leader that is able to show the ideals and people could get behind it.
Mhm.
JFK, we had that. Ask not what you could do for your country, but what your country could, what you could do for your country, right?
Right.
I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to the moon. We're doing this. Like it was an inspirational time. Have we always had that? No. Hey friends, it's Kevin. I actually don't talk about my real estate business all that much. I own Restore STL. We buy, fix, and sell houses. We believe in home ownership right here in St. Louis, Missouri. If you're interested in getting involved in real estate and make a difference, we're looking for agents, we're looking for investors, we're looking for private lenders. We're just putting the pieces together. So if you know somebody that needs to sell and needs another option, check us out. Visit our website, it's restorestl.com, or just reach out to me. Thanks, guys. Back to the show.
We have to do another episode on the moon, though. Let's come back to that.
Oh boy, are you one of the guys? It was made in LA on Hollywood Hills. Is that where?
No, no, it wasn't made there. It was made in a studio somewhere else. Um yeah, but there's way more to that. Unfortunately, I
Good.
have to say it. But yeah, yeah, no, I digress. But no,
Uh,
dude, you have a full spectrum analysis going on with that, and with your knowledge of history, and I think that is important to apply that to the United States. And I think there's also like definitely it's definitely important to have knowledge about other things outside of real estate to sort of aid that knowledge of real estate, you know.
so where do you go, Dan, to get your perspective back in?
Well, I guess I do like to get involved in politics. I think I call it civic duty. You know, if everybody would just be responsible and have a civic duty, then we would be a cohesive force against uh, our overlords. And I think that real estate is extremely important because if a young man or girl has a knowledge of return on investment, cash flow, and equity, those three simple concepts, they can sort of guard themselves against serfdom and like actually ownership is important. Um, and so, I kind of find that mix of politics and real estate in that like central to both of my endeavors there is just honoring, and like I think that can be really really beneficial for society if people, okay, there's nothing wrong with renting. I've done it. Maybe you've done it. A lot of people want to do it for the rest of their lives. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. I just think that people need to know that they don't have to go that route. So
Yeah.
yeah.
We're helping somebody right now, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not able to buy. I'm not able to buy." And then yet there's people here that are willing to say, "Hey, I'll loan you the money. Like I'll front you. We'll get you. We'll clean up your taxes. We'll clean this up, and you could buy it from me, a lease option.
Right.
Like do this, but I'll front you until that happens. You're still paying me rent. It's not a handout. I'm still making a profit, but it's just like people don't know that people are out there actually helping.
Hmm.
Um, that said, there are wolves in sheep clothing in this space. That are just like any industry. There's good and bad people. The tools frequently are the same, but it is the intent behind the tool that makes the difference.
Sure.
And so it's like, well, you're
Yeah.
doing it's like, yes, they're squeezing, trying to get everything out of you to make profit for them. I think there's a reasonable way of saying, hey, you're good with this number. I'm good with this number. Cool. I need to make a profit. Otherwise, I'm out of business.
Absolutely.
This isn't a charity. Like there has to be, and I think it's how you set the table as you're making your offer, kind of how you're presenting it. So,
Yeah. No, absolutely. Lots of opportunity out there, Kevin, and hopefully people will be opportunistic, you know, at whatever
uh,
level that is.
Dan, do you have kids?
No, I do not.
So I got 3 boys.
Awesome.
So one is about to go to college or, that age where you can make a decision and, 2 are in high school, I should say, 1 is in middle school. it's interesting trying to give them or their friends advice. So
Mm,
recently, my oldest son asked me to coach his basketball team. I'm not a basketball guy, yet I coached. We ended up going undefeated.
nice.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Not to say my kids were all tall and seniors, but yeah, whatever. It was totally me. No, it was totally the kids and all this other stuff helps. Um, but sometimes they just needed somebody to lead them, not to judge them, not to point fingers, but just go, hey, let's do this. Accept their quirks, accept the stuff, and give them direction. That said, as you have gone through you're being coached and you're kind of building your team now, like what is some of the stuff that you're working on now? Like how can we, the outside world, help Dan make his next steps, as you're building a team and kind of building your business?
I got Wooden's book on my shelf too, by the way. It's hiding behind the card, I think. Or no, it's actually at home, I guess. Or is it? Yeah, Wooden on Leadership.
I don't know that one.
UCLA winningest coach,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
John Wooden.
Actually, I think it is there because I
Yeah,
see
right
wood.
there. Great book. Uh, Speaking of basketball and leadership, what are we working on right now? We're working on. We've got what we've got probably 10 properties in inventory right now. Three of them are in North City. Um, One of them's a rehab in Pasadena Hills. We've got one, actually got another property in North City that I think we just listed. Um, we've got we just sold one out west and a couple others, and then I've got a property down south in South City that I'm about to do a construction loan on and convert to a duplex.
So do you use hard money or do you use traditional
Pretty
banks or?
Every once in a while, we'll still use some hard money. But yeah, we've got another one in a two-bedroom, one bath that I actually just added to my portfolio in Normandy. Cute little house. And so we're using a bank loan on that one, another bank loan on the duplex construction loan, and then private money on the rest of the stuff right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Family
man,
members. Yeah.
private money is
It's the way to go.
so much easier as
Yeah.
you kind of develop into this,
Hmm.
especially once you have a track record.
Yep.
Um,
Uh, and I'll pay good for private money. I mean, it makes sense.
Help me help you, right?
Yeah,
Just kind of that
absolutely.
that that easy connection as it grows.
I'll make it juicy for them.
So what advice would you give a young Dan? So maybe the Dan just getting back into St. Louis or somebody like you kind of growing up, like what do you think you could have, if you would have heard it at that time, would have made your life a little bit easier?
Yeah, yeah. What advice would I give to my younger self? I would say stick with one thing, I mean, I don't know. I don't have any regrets. I learned kind of like I learned property management, project management, leasing, and kind of learned all that at the beginning. I guess I could have been more financially productive had I just laser focused on one thing. And then when I first got into real estate, truth be told, I had a couple little other things I just had to get out of my system. One is actually a weird thing, but it was a breakfast burrito that I was selling, and it was a pipe dream. I learned that I couldn't do it. I just learned that it was not a business model that I was prepared to get into. So
You
without
couldn't
going
wrap
into
your hands around it? Sorry.
yeah, and it was an excellent idea. However, it's just yeah, the idea was selling from carts, and I was selling them to bars, but I was selling them on consignment. I didn't make any money. So I had one foot in the door, one foot out. And I would say, I probably would have been better off just going right into real estate, 100% real estate. And not only that, but like just laser focused on one particular thing. So I guess that's what I would say.
You say that, and I remember when I said in St. Louis and I had my coach at the time, right? And he said, great, Kevin, you're now doing, because I just left corporate America. I didn't have a paycheck. I had nothing. He's like, cool, you're going to be my guy. So you're going to do the marketing. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. oh, and you need to get into this thing. We're deregulating energy. So make sure you get in on that. Okay, you're going to start credit restoration. You're going to start this. You're going to start that.
Yeah.
And I think I was groomed in a sense to do everything. And it's like, so really, where were you? Were you really anywhere? Like you made a large network, you attended a lot of meetings, but were you
Right.
making any progress in any particular issue? And it's like, I think that's actually why it took me longer to get my first deal
Right.
instead of zoop, like narrow focus and just going in and knocking it out.
Or maybe that was the right way because for you now you have a podcast and you're talking about everything. So like maybe having that everything experience was important for you,
Yeah. Well,
right?
usually the podcast is more about your story, not necessarily mine. I do
Well, I
mine on
know
my own time.
you're relatable. You have to be relatable, so that
I
helps you
got
with that.
so you brought up somebody, and I'll leave the name off.
Okay.
Uh, and like their claim to fame, I've seen them talk and all this stuff, and they're like, "I've never lost money on a deal. I have a perfect record in real estate." And I'm like, "I cannot relate to you." Like,
Yeah.
I have lost, I've
Yeah.
struck out, I've made mistakes,
Yeah.
I've had to figure it out. But it's
Yeah.
also because of those moments, I could tell you about other stuff. I bought a log cabin. I bought we split land. I had a church for a time. I've had contractors pull guns. Like, okay, you don't need to know all that stuff before you start real estate. You just need to know,
Right.
like, okay, if this happens,
Right.
don't overreact. How do you handle it when the FDA pulls you out of a conference asking if you burned down a church for the money? It's like, well,
Wow.
it's
Dude.
just those are just different days that you can't necessarily plan for.
And you're writing a book right now, you said. Is that right?
Yeah, about Eads Bridge. So if you go back and listen to that
That's right.
episode,
Yeah.
um, because that's why vision work is so important. What do you want? Right. Our first episode goes back to Chuck Ballman, who uh, he's the other guy here with the fro. So there's
Mhm.
Dad, there's Chuck. He's also passed now, but he did the recipe for success, which I talked about, I think, in episode one. But it's have a vision. What do
Yeah.
you want? Where do you
Right.
want to go?
Right.
Step two, get a coach. Find somebody who's been there before, knows the path.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Right.
Three, get a mastermind. Said another way, find people also going to the same place you're going.
Yep.
Four, upgrade your systems. Okay, you want to run? Great. Buy running shoes. You want to do this? Great. Get a camera, get a microphone so you can do a podcast. Makes sense. And then step five, take massive action. Said like Nike, just do it. Just
Yep.
go. You know,
Action, 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 man.
and that's where
That's
it's like,
it.
you start surrounding yourself with people doing stuff.
Yep.
Like it really is a magnifying event,
Contagious.
especially
Yep.
when like-minded people and you just it goes.
Absolutely.
That said, it could also go to a side as well, if it's the wrong person.
Right.
Ha
Oh yeah.
have you had partners or is it solo
I
or
never have had a partner. No.
really?
I don't know that I ever would actually. Yeah.
Do you not play well with others?
No, I do. I mean, I was always into sports and played on teams, Um, I guess it's just a very, very careful decision. I think partnerships, that can really be a bad, terrible decision. And so I'm very careful with that. I'll never say never. I just haven't, and frankly, I haven't needed to. I'm more about building out my team and being better at delegating and leading. And I don't know what I don't know what a partner would do for me right now. Never say never. I yeah, just haven't
So and I
partnered on deals. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, lots of that. So in this sense, yeah, but not like a
Uh, but see, then
partnership
there's
with
a
the
definitive
company.
end. "Hey, alright, we'll share this deal,
Y-
but at this point, we're cashed out. We could either
Yeah,
do it again or, no harm, no foul."
right.
Um,
Well,
there
I've
was
also
one
I feel like I've built something right now, Kevin, and like if I'm going to invite somebody into that, they better be damn good at something because or they better pay me a lot of money at this point because what are they bringing to the table? I at some point I'd like to hire a fractional COO, I think,
yeah.
and Would that be a partner? Sure, I guess it depends on what they're gonna bring and have they done this particular type of work before? So I don't know.
I know a couple actually if you need to talk to them.
Do you? Yeah, send them to me,
It
please.
really is fun, like, solving a problem. That's what a
Yeah,
lot of this is. Like, for us in real estate, okay, how do we solve their problem? A lot of times it's a cash as is offer, it's, blank, blank, blank. Hey, you ever watch the HGTV shows and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we found mold." And it's like,
yeah,
"No shit, man. Oh, look, there's termites."
yeah,
Okay. But guess what? You just covered 90% of houses that are made in Missouri. Oh, there's
yeah,
brown recluse. Again, they're in every house. Like, it's not, like, not the end of the world. You just go clean it up, see what you have. All right, here we go. When everybody's doom and gloom, it's like, it's not. Just we've seen it before. Um, I guess that's where experience comes in.
yeah.
Um, so do you have hard days, or is everything easy for you, Dan?
No, I definitely do. Um, gosh, is everything easy? I just like Eric. I would say Eric. I love Eric Clapton. The musician, and I'd say if Eric Clapton felt like picking up his guitar every time he picked it up, he wouldn't be Eric Clapton. That's kind of how I look at things.
Yeah, he
I
put in
really
the
enjoy I
the
really
work.
enjoy real estate, and I can't see myself doing anything else. Are there hard days? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's days where, like you said, you're forging, and you get home at 11 o'clock at night, midnight, even 1 o'clock in the morning, and you got to be back up again and back at it, and you just gotta like pick yourself up. There's those days for sure. Yeah.
Mhm. So then on those days, Dan, is there a quote? Is there a movie? Is there a song? Is there a verse? What is there that Dan White goes to get through the difficult days, the forging days, right? Is there somewhere you go? Is there a book? Is there a poem? Is there something you go to help kinda lift your spirits back up?
Hmm. Well, spiritual. I try to say a rosary every day, and I don't always do that. But I notice things fall into place for me when I do. Or I try to surround myself with people who are um, like have a high level vibe that are producing and doing things and making things happen. Because you could, like you said earlier, you get with the wrong people, and that's you're taking that trajectory down the wrong path. So those are the two things I'd say. Spiritually, to get my spirits up. That's what I would do. That's what I do.
Um, so how much, Dan, do you think faith has been in your business?
It's my number one core value, and it's not necessarily religious faith in that sense. If somebody comes into the door for an interview, I'm not necessarily going to make sure that they have the same religious faith as me. Um, but it means that you have the ability, or that you have the ability to get something done, to do something even when you can't really see it. So it's like jumping across that chasm. So it's very important.
It's like the, Indiana Jones, right? Remember the Last Crusade where he just takes the step off the cliff there? Woo, do you know what I'm
Uh,
talking about?
Man, I Last
Oh, you
Crusade.
don't?
I would know it if I saw it. Be super nostalgic probably, but I don't
Uh,
remember that movie that well.
oh, man. Jake
I
will
just
get
remember,
the clip, he'll throw it in.
I remember the one where he pulls the guy's heart out and it's still
Oh, that was the
pumping.
second one.
That was
Yeah.
traumatizing to me as a kid, so I always
Well,
remember that.
yeah, it was. That was a scary ass movie. So the third one is the one with, Sean Connery. Um,
Sean Connery's in Indiana Jones.
oh my gosh, Dan!
Harrison Ford is the only one I know.
Yeah, this is his dad.
Okay. No, I don't remember that.
"We named the dog Indiana." Like, that was Sean Connery.
No.
Uh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you need to watch that one. That is a
I'm
classic.
gonna do that tonight. I'll write
So
that down.
okay. Okay. You, like, derailed me on a
Are you a big movie guy?
I'm not,
No.
but Uh, I mean, that's just an iconic. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm
dude.
in my mid 40s. Like Indiana Jones played a large role through
Yeah.
that phase.
I have a hard
So
time watching movies, really, especially now that we have these phones. I'm just like, oh, this is a great movie, and
short
I'm like on my
extension
phone.
attention span.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so.
Hey friends, it's Kevin. I just want to thank one of our tribe members here, Lois Mans with Farmers Insurance. You know the catchy jingle. We are farmers, bump a dum bum 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 bum. Well, Lois has been covering my assets for almost 8 years now. So every time I buy a house, a flip, or a rental, Lois is there making sure everything is okay for me. She is fantastic. Her team is highly focused on customer service. I use her a lot for all the homes, but you could also try out her life insurance, her cars, her home, her auto. She's got all those ways to help you. They are now also brokers, so they could also, if they're not the best price, they could go out and find a better price for you out there as well. So Lois, thank you so much for all that you do. And on top of all that, she is in the top 1% of all farmers agents worldwide. So amazing job, Lois. You guys need to check her out. You guys can get a hold of her at 314-283-1981. Mention me in the show and she will give you a free quote. Back to our show.
I used to
Have
get
you
kicked out of
noticed
class.
more people now have ADD, ADHD, and like focus is like a huge hurdle that everybody has now?
Yeah, for sure.
And like before, like I was helping my son, my youngest, with math homework last night.
Hmm.
And he's like laying on the ground. It's just like, like, and I'm like, this is what I used to be like, So, okay, talking about this then, how do you get over that? Because we know it's just a mental game, but is it? Like,
You know
what
what
are
I
some
would,
tricks?
I had always heard that from an old friend that Mark Burnett never used a computer. This is the guy that produced Survivor, The Island, and Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? All these different big shows. He never had a computer.
Really?
Maybe that's not true. I don't know, but I'd always heard that. Or maybe there's some of that's true. But I have a little flip phone, a dumb phone, and my dream is to be able to get rid of this thing and the other one I have, two of these, and just be able to walk out of this office with my flip phone and be that guy that just like turns
Go
off.
home and play Minesweeper just on your
Yeah.
old school
Figure out the best games I can get on that flip phone. No.
with a gosh. I remember my first because I used to travel America before all these things were what they are. It was like that old school unbreakable Nokia. You know the one I'm talking about? Uh, there was
Just the
mine.
straight phone, not the flip
Oh yeah,
phone? Yeah,
just a
yeah,
straight
yeah.
up.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it was like a brick. You could just
Yeah.
hammer in nails with it.
Escape from a
I think it
car.
was Snake, and it was Minesweeper. I think that's what you had with those.
Yeah, man. That's right. I forgot about that.
Snake was my gig, but
Yeah, me too. Oh, that's crazy. I forgot all
yeah.
about
Now I'm
that.
gonna be like, all right, I want to have the old school Snake game on my computer now.
Yeah.
Um, Hey, back to the question, which totally answers the question. Of all the distractions and all the doodads that pop up, how are you able to focus now to be able to build this business, to have these 10 properties, to have this team? How can you drive in and be successful like that?
Yeah, well, it's a numbers thing, a lot of it, and one has to be disciplined with team meeting structures, constantly doing one-to-ones once a week, doing a team meeting every Monday at 2 o'clock sharp when we start. Nobody's late anymore. I mean, it used to be more generous with people clocking in late and stuff. I got to a point where I had a lot of turnover and there was a lot of people struggling with being on time. And so, you're probably laughing because I came into this meeting late, but like when it comes to like starting the day, the first day of work, I have a thing, and I actually turned a girl away at the front door. And this is after like onboarding her for 2 weeks and having good amount of money and time involved in that with my office manager onboarding her and everything. She came to this. We do 4 interviews, sometimes just three, but she came to all interviews. She was on time, and then I said, this is very important. The first day of work, if you're not on time, then you won't work here. And she came in 2 minutes late, and I had a team meeting set up, everybody else was there, and she's the front door is set up and the conference room is right there, and everybody would have seen her walk in, put her stuff down, and then we would have started, 10 minutes later. I just couldn't do it. So I just turned her away at the front door. So that's important. It's become more important. We never start meetings on time. During the day, things get chaotic. That's fine. But like first day of work and like coming in uh, on time. And then tracking metrics. That's a big one. That's probably the biggest one that Josh and Tiffany have gotten me on. Definitely check them out. Results driven. Um, yeah, but tracking metrics on a scorecard. So like you may be familiar with 40X, Four Disciplines of Execution. It's a book, and I don't know who wrote it, but I read that. And it talks about lead measures, lag measures. So if you're watching a football game and you have a scoreboard, okay, and that's allowing everybody to see what the score of the game is, letting the players know how much time they have left. If you take away that scoreboard in the middle of the game, nowadays people are going to be on their phones. Nobody knows the score of the game. Even the players and coaches are wondering if that, everything. So a scoreboard is really important. That's what I learned from Four Disciplines of Execution, and then that was drilled in again, reiterated that with Josh and Tiffany, and so created a scorecard. So we're tracking everything from the time a deal is working backwards from an actual deal that closes, right? So we're tracking projected profit on the contracts that we lock up, and then backing off from there, we're tracking offers from their processes. If we have a follow-up specialist in that seat, pass offs, like they're just teeing it up for the closer to do the process call. So we're tracking passes, and then from there, quality conversations, connection rate, connections, which is a 1 minute plus phone call, and then dials, last but not least. So not so much concerned about dials. Obviously, we're looking at projected profit, and then a certain percentage of that's going to close because we have to renegotiate or back out of contract. So everything is sort of working backwards. I've learned that helps me stay focused for sure. Otherwise, I don't know where I'm at with things. I mean, there was a time where my bookkeeping was a mess and I had papers everywhere and that sort of thing. I don't know if you've gone through that phase, but that was really. I wish I would have gotten that tighter, 5 6 years ago, and really tightened that up better.
My early CRMs were just notebooks of paper. And when it was
Yeah,
time to go through it, like, oh man, I need to do, and then you just start over.
right.
It's just like, because I'm a big fan of, I want to learn how my brain is working, like what actually matters. So then I'll do that. I'll see the pattern. Then you could come in and build the system or the spreadsheets or, like, okay, but what do I actually using? Okay, now use it.
Yeah,
Um, so so I'm more familiar with the book Traction. Did you do that
yeah,
one?
yeah. I had that
So
up there. I actually haven't read that yet. I think I've read part of it, but not the whole thing.
I think it's,
EOS system, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that is the rocket fuel one, but yeah, that's one of the ones up there. Um,
Yeah, I got it
so
on the end over there.
in
Wickman.
my coaching, in kind of so it's like the whole eats bridge thing, right? Taking out the impurities, adding the additives. Part of the
Mm,
additives, though, for me is like, all right, if I do my, 100 push-ups, okay. If I make my bed, if I clean the counter, if I do, you know, these personal things professionally, I'm going to be also more like, hey, let's just get your metrics done. Like,
100%.
and it's just one of those like, yeah, you call it dials or like, hey, if I'm not reaching out, am I doing enough? If I'm not making contracts, how am I going to buy something if I'm not able to do this? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if you're not dialed in, if one is not dialed in life, you're not dialed in business. It's
mhm,
like it has to be there. So going to the gym Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, try to do it in the mornings, the better time to do it. Eating healthy, fairly healthy. Like yesterday I drank coffee at 7 o'clock, which is totally stupid. And then drank it till 9 and then got 2 3 hours of sleep. So
yeah,
I
because
don't
you're,
do that often anymore, but that was stupid. Bad decision.
yeah,
Um, yeah, but
but
like lead measures and lag measures are what I've learned that's really helped me focus. And then simplifying too is really important too. Um, but like lead measures are measures that so you set a goal and there's two things. A goal has to be it has to have a time and it has to be specific, right? So if there's a goal and it's lacking one of those two qualities, then it's not really a goal. And then so that's important when you set that goal, and that becomes the lag measure. So if somebody's goal is to lose weight or gain weight, they're going to step on that scale in 365 days, and they're going to look down at the scale. And this is what 40x talks about. And this is what Josh and Tiffany talk about. And you look down at the scale, and you have no idea what that weight's going to be until you look down 365 days later. Then if you create measurable, influenceable, you know, metrics along the way where you're stepping on that scale every week, then you know what you did wrong or right, and you can tweak things along the way so that it's not a big surprise when you step on it 365 days. And then, so those lead measures lead up to that lag measure.
Yeah,
And that's really important.
I love it. Well, which goes back to that whole dream side, right? What's your vision? Cool.
Yeah,
Now that you
vision.
know that, now we got to do the work, right? What
That's it.
healthy habits do you need to build? How do we measure it? Are you accountable? Who are you accountable to? Uh, so many important things. All right. So, Dan, as I'm wrapping up here, you have a neon sign above you.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about it and why is it significant?
Man, I mean, just it's that simple. Just never give up, you know, ever. I don't know
Okay.
what else to say to that. Yeah.
Well, tell me a story that you never gave up.
Well, let's see. A deal. Let's talk about a deal. So there's a deal that we were calling. It was a cold call. We were cold calling at the time. It was like 7, 8 years ago, and we called the seller. He was in pre-foreclosure, and he said, "You know what, fellas, I'm already." Well, he actually took us all the way through we took him all the way through the process, like would be a process call, sort of. Made an offer, and he's like, and then he finally let us know after a couple hours of time, like, I'm already under contract with somebody else. So we kind of, just put it in the nurture campaign, followed up with it. I go to New York City to visit my sister and her family, and I get off a shuttle bus from the airport, Columbus Circle, and it's a Friday, and it's, I don't know, like 2 o'clock, something like that. And this guy calls me, and he's like, "Hey man, they backed out. Can you buy this thing?" And I go, "When's the foreclosure? When's the auction?" He says, "Monday." I'm like, "This Monday?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Forget about it, dude. There's nothing I can do." He goes, "Well, they had the title run already." So he goes, "I don't know if that helps." I said, "Hold on." So like I'm the type of guy that, like, you give me something, some kind of scrap to work with, I'm going all the way. Like I'm not gonna stop. So I get inside the apartment, I kiss my nieces, I say hello to everybody, and I go straight to their bedroom, sit on their bed with their nightstand and my laptop open. I call Bank of America, I call Commerce Bank because he's got a loan for like $82,000 with BOA, and then he's got a Commerce note for like 12 grand. So the Commerce was a HELOC. It's already in default, but the BOA can still, we can still save him from and mitigate his loss there. So I open up, I talk to Bank of America, the worst of all banks. You
Oh,
know what I
yeah, they
mean?
are.
Horrible demon lizard. So I'm talking to them. I talk to one demon lizard, and then I get another one, and they don't care at all. So they finally get somebody that, I'm able to kind of convince them, hey, look, this guy's got this property. He's going to the auction on Monday. It's in all of our best interests that we save this thing. Nobody wins if you guys take back an asset and have to manage it, a vacant property in the city of St. Louis. It's like a beautiful neighborhood. It's Holly Hills in January. It's a duplex. So 5533 Holly Hills. So I'm talking. So I get this person that finally will listen, and I said, "What can I do to save this thing?" They said, "Well, you can make the payment right now, but you don't have time to make the payment. We have to receive the payment." And I was like, okay, I called back again. I got somebody else. And I'm like, here's the deal. I know I have to make this payment, but here's the deal. You guys are going to lose. He's going to lose. His family's going to lose. Everybody's losing. I lose. Well, let's turn all that into a win, 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 win. It's like everybody's winning. So I finally got somebody that let me do this, and they let me send the payment certified mail with tracking and insurance and all that. Take a picture of the receipt to show that it had sent, and it was $13,583 to reinstate the loan and some change. So I reinstated the loan. I sent that off, and then I spent Saturday. I believe they were open on Saturday because I was talking to them, working out at Equinox Gym, talking to them, and I got them to allow me to do that. Reinstated the mortgage. And there's more to it. It was actually we did a subject to deal, and Christina Aguilera like coached me through it. I gave her some money. She coached me through that subject to deal. I'd never done one. and it worked out perfect. So we literally bought the property for what was owed on it, and then made the payments to the bank, created an LLC, and we created LLC in such a way that the bank wouldn't necessarily call the note with a due on sale clause, because they can, but they never do, as long as they're getting their coin. So
Right.
like we made those payments for a year, renovated the 2 units, and then refinanced and got this guy out of this situation after all worked. And I lived in it for 8 years up until just recently.
That's awesome.
It was it was a really fun deal, and it had a ton of equity in it, because that area just shot up and
You had to.
worked out. Great neighbors, everything.
That's awesome. Never give up.
Never give up, man. There's always a way.
Well, then the other part is work hard. Like, take massive
Fucking
action.
A.
Like, that would have
Exactly.
worked if you would have just had one phone call and stopped.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
you
don't know
kept
what those other guys were doing. I won't say any names, but they backed out at the last minute. It's like, you had a deal. It was right there.
people get scared.
Yep, I guess so.
All right. Well, Dan, it's been great having you on. Thank you for sharing some of your insight and never giving up in the whole process. So, Dan, thank you so much for being with us.
Kevin, thank you, brother. Been great talking with you. Fun
Yeah,
talking shop.
you too. All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right. What a fun talk with Dan. I did not know I would have as much history talking with him as we did here. So, one, I love the fact that he started following his dad around, right? Picking up nails and kind of seeing how this went. So, his dad was an engineer by trade and was doing all this stuff, but also picked up some units. So, he was learning, whether consciously or subconsciously, hey, to build wealth, here is a pattern of how you do it, right? Determination and working hard on it. So then you see him doing this traveling and accidentally starting in real estate by subleasing his spot out in Hollywood to Holly Hills. That's so cool. But then how he is building a team and he got coaching and he's, really developing his leadership. And then unlike me, I partnered with a bunch of people. He is building his team and make sure that he was always kind of in charge. So I think it's kind of cool to see that dichotomy, little difference there in his stuff. So I like how he said something just clicked with real estate. I wasn't a good waiter. I wasn't good at this, or this, but real estate, it all clicked. It just made sense. So, if that is something that just, somehow real estate is going to be in your life, take that course over in kevindragi.com. The tool there is the real estate snapshot. Just see what you have to work with and find the people and see where it clicks. What section clicks for you? But what do you do when it's a hard time? What is one of those KPIs? Doing the rosary. How cool is that? What advice? Be on time. Makes a huge deal, right? And then if you go back to some other people, if you're not early, you're late. But the being on time and showing up is such a big deal. And then he totally underlined the idea of have a scorecard, right? Follow your metrics. That way, you know what your lead and lag indicators are to help predict what your future income will be. If you need to get more money, great. Go back and do more of the how many dials, how many connections, how many qualified leads, right? Well, these are lead and lag indicators. So well done, Dan. Well done. I actually wrote down a couple books I'm going to read after our conversation here. Nothing Down, Be My Guest, and then 40X. So yeah, it looks like I got my homework. Dan, thank you for jumping on. Thank you for watching with us, everybody. And we will see you next week. Hey friends, this is Kevin. For more information for our vendors, just go to our link tree or any of these little clicks here. You could get it. I'm going to finish you off with some positive affirmations so you could get ready for your day. I am a leader. I make a difference. I add value. My words have power. I know God and He loves me. I am a leader. I raise people up, not tear them down. Today is my best day. I change lives. I live abundantly. I am a money magnet. I am alive, and I am a force for good. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and remember, dream big, act accordingly.